We are back. That's right. We are back to the Race and Ethnic Relations on Campus podcast show. I am Dr. B. Welcome back to our show. This is show number 61. And it's entitled Ketanji Brown Jackson. Should she be our next Supreme Court Justice? That's right. Ketanji Brown Jackson. Should she be our next Supreme Court Justice? There you go. I'm starting controversy already. I'm going to tell you my answer in just a moment. Please be patient. This is show number 61. And yes, we are in the midst of the end of February, Black History Month. And I thought it would be appropriate, particularly with what's going on in our country right now. And also the latest international situation that's happening. I'll have another show on that about the issues happening in Russia and Ukraine. But here, at the end of Black History Month, I think it's appropriate to do a deeper dive on the President Biden's nomination, Ketanji Brown Jackson. The question is, should she be the next Supreme Court Justice? There you go. I want to thank, my the platforms that we're doing our podcast shows. Podbean. I want to thank Amazon Prime, Audible. I want to thank Apple Podcasts. I want to thank iHeartRadio. I want to thank Spotify. And I want to thank all our platforms that are out there hosting the Race and Ethnic Relations on Campus podcast show. And as I said, this is show number 61. And I'm just going to be straight to the point. I didn't know who Ketanji Brown Jackson is. I saw her face perhaps several months ago. Yet when it became clear that during the new administration and the fact that one of the Supreme Court justices, Judge Stephen Breyer, is going to retire this summer, that's when the politics start to fly. And that's when I saw, for the very, second time, Ketanji Brown Jackson as one of the potential nominees. And so I want to do a deeper dive. I want to find out who this person is. And now I'm going to answer the question after I did my deeper dive. Should she be the next Supreme Court Justice? Yes! I say it right now. Yes! Yes, after my deeper dive, yes! She fulfills a lot of the necessary requirements of being a Supreme Court Justice. The most prestigious level of law in our country. Right now I'm just thinking, because it's Black History Month, Thurgood Marshall. Wow. Phenomenal Supreme Court Justice who happened to be African American. So I'm thinking along those lines, just to, give you a little framework where my thought process. But again, I had no idea. I'm just going to be straightforward. I had no idea about Ketanji Brown Jackson until I did a deeper dive into who she is. That's what I do. There's always going to be a lot of publicity on folks politically, but do your own deeper dive on all these professionals. And this is one of the more critical situations as a in authority and symbolism at the highest level of law in our country, the Supreme Court Justice, laying down the law, the framework. So, again, I did a deeper dive on her. As opposed to getting all the information from the talking heads on TV, in the social media, everywhere, all the talking heads out saying this or that, da 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 da. So I said, let me do my own deeper dive and look at this nominee, myself, unfiltered. So after reviewing last week, after looking at some of the, information online, and remember myself, where did I hear about her record, see her record? I want to read a vast majority of the article. One of the best, I think, not investigation, but overview of Ketanji Brown Jackson was on NPR. Let me just say, NPR did a great job of capturing who she is, what her history, what did she rule on, what is her law strategy, not strategy, but her record. And so I'm going to read portions of this, and I'm going to share with you a little bit of her history and how she characterized herself. It's not about the talking heads, but how she characterized herself throughout her law career. Now, the article starts off with, and again, I'm highlighting NPR, not all the other crap out there, but NPR has a good write-up on her, just by the way. It goes like this. President Biden has selected Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson as his Supreme Court nominee to fill the seat left when Judge Stephen Breyer retires this summer. At a White House event this past Friday, introducing Jackson, Biden described her as a consensus builder with a pragmatic understanding that the law must work for the American people. He specifically says, I am proud to announce that I am nominating Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to serve on the Supreme Court. She's currently serving on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. She is one of our nation's brightest legal minds and will be an exceptional justice. Goes on. Jackson has led a professional and personal life at once classic and unpredictable. Unlike most judges, her background is not as a prosecutor or major corporate lawyer, and her personal life also defies stereotypes. Professionally, she is an experienced judge. For 8 years, she served as a federal trial court judge, and last June was confirmed for a seat on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. Now, I know something about D.C. I used to live in the D.C. metro area for 5 years. They don't play around. So, again, keep on going on. Prior to her becoming a judge, her legal experience was extensive and varied. While 4 members of the current court were at one time prosecutors, Jackson, if nominated, and she has been nominated, would be the first Supreme Court justice since Thurgood Marshall to have represented indigent criminal defendants. That's right. She has represented indigent criminal defendants just like Thurgood Marshall. Like I said, I grew up during Thurgood Marshall's time. Phenomenal. Further, okay, here goes. At the White House event, Jackson opened up her remarks by saying she was humbled by the nomination, noting that it came at a time when there was a lot going on in the world. She says, quote, I must begin these very brief remarks by thanking God for delivering me to this point in my professional journey. She further states, "My life has been blessed beyond measure, and I do know that one can only come this far by faith." Wow. Great opening statement, by the way. Later, she noted that she shares a birthday with the Constance Baker Motley, the first black woman ever to be appointed as federal judge. Jackson says she stands on her shoulders and shares her commitment to equal justice under the law. And then she further quotes, "I can only hope that my life and career, my love of this country and the Constitution will inspire future generations of Americans," Jackson said. Now, that was a great opening statement, being nominated and her statement at the White House. Now I'm going to get to, and I was curious about her background, and I really like how NPR had different sections. They go into her legal stuff, but at the very end of this article, from Friday, the 25th, check it out. At the very end of the article, NPR, it says, "From Miami to Harvard." Yeah, where she really get to being a justice in D.C. and now Supreme Court. Now, here's where they do a deeper dive on it. From Miami to Harvard, Jackson, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Jackson was born in Washington, D.C., where her parents were school teachers. Wow. Her parents were school teachers. They soon moved to Miami, where her father went to law school and rose to become the school's board's top lawyer, while her mother became a school principal. There you go. Her mother was school principal and her father was representing the school boards. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Hello. Wow. One of her earliest memories of law, she said, was sitting. Now this really captured me. This is like, oh no, it's tugging at my heart now. I'm going to tell you, it tugged at my heart right here. It says, one of her earliest memories of the law, she said, was sitting next to her father in the evening while he studied law books and she worked on her coloring books. I kid you not. That was a great point. She said she was her memory is sitting next to her father in the evening while he studied his law books and she worked on her coloring books. Wow. That brings it back home to me and, my own daughter. And when I'm a young professor and studying, and here I am, I have my own daughter, and she had her coloring book. So, yes, that tug in my heart. And so I said, wow, okay, I definitely connect with that. I had a good chuckle. And then it goes on to say, in high school, Jackson was a national orator champion. Wow. She represented. Then graduated with honors from Harvard College and Harvard Law School, where she was an editor on the Law Review. Wow. She was actually, in addition to that, editor. She clerked for 3 federal judges, including Justice Breyer, the man she will replace. Yes, she clerked for Justice Breyer. Jackson met her husband, Patrick Jackson, when the two were at Harvard College. He was, she says, her first serious, quote, serious boyfriend, and has remained that ever since. They have 2 daughters. Wow, they met at Harvard College, and she says he was her first serious boyfriend. At first blush, they looked like an improbable couple. Yes, an improbable couple. As she put it, and you always got to find out how does the person view their own relationship. And they say, as she put it in a charming and candid speech at the University of Georgia Law School in March 2017, quote, she said, Patrick, her now husband, is a quintessential Boston Bohemian. Brahmin. Yes, Brahmin. His family can be traced back to England before the Mayflower. He and his twin brother are in fact the 6th generation of their family to graduate from Harvard College. Whoa. By contrast, she says, I am the second generation in my family to go to any college. Wow. And I am fairly certain that if you trace my family heritage lineage back past my grandparents who were raised in Georgia, yeah, I have relatives myself. I have relatives. My dad and relatives come from Georgia too. Anyway, by the way, she says, you would find that my ancestors were slaves on both sides. I thought that was very, very powerful. Again, recognizing the difference, history, yet they still come together, regardless of that difference. They have a commonality. And then it goes on and says, federal judge Pat Saris, who hired Jackson as a law clerk straight out of law school, recalls her husband, who now looks full on prep, as less so back then. At the time, he was a surgical resident at Massachusetts General Hospital, but he was so fascinated by his wife's work, he would often go to the courtroom after a long night on call to watch what was going on. As Saris remembers, the young doctor had often been up for 24 hours plus and looked incredibly scuffy, sitting in the back of the courtroom. Finally, one day, the judge courtroom marshal came up to her and whispered, quote, Judge, would you like me to remove the homeless man in the back room? Referring to her boyfriend, or at the time, or whether, I don't know if they were married at the time, but again, referring to her husband. The doctor, a star in the surgical world today, is the first to tout his wife's horn. Judge Brown said in that Georgia speech that being a federal judge was always her dream job. Then goes on and said, but after Obama nominated her in 2012, actually getting that job depended entirely on events beyond her control, namely Obama's reelection. And quote, and when you add to that, she said, the fact that I am related by marriage to Paul Ryan, the then House Speaker, who was at that point running for vice president against President Obama, you can get the sense of what that period was like for me. As difficult as that confrontation may have seemed at the time, it may have provide insight of the hindsight, but of the picnic compared to what she is likely to face right now as a nominee for the Supreme Court Justice. So again, that gives you a quick backdrop of her history and how she arrived at this stage. Now, I thought that was very fascinating. And then now, let's go into, I really like how NPR went into her work as a public defender. And I'm going to read this portion as well. In addition to her work as a public defender, she practiced at law firms large and small and served as vice chairman of the U.S. Sentencing Commission at a time when it sought to reduce the draconian penalties for crack cocaine, penalties that were 100 times more severe than for powder cocaine. At the Sentencing Commission, she earned a reputation for building consensus. That's right, consensus. And most of the panel's decisions were unanimous. For Jackson, sentencing was not an abstract matter. For example, one uncle is a former Miami police chief. Another was a sex crimes detective, and her younger brother was a Baltimore police undercover agent. But her family also had experience with the scrounge and the devastation of drugs. Her father's older brother, her uncle, was sentenced to life in prison under a federal 3 strikes law aimed at repeat drug offenders. After more than 15 years behind bars, he contacted Jackson, by then a public defender, seeking help. Now, according to the Washington Post, article back then, Jackson felt a sympathy for her uncle, but saw no legal option for him at the time. Later, though, after learning that the law firm of Wilmer Hale was handling clemency cases free of charge, she referred her uncle to the firm. The Post quoted saying that years before Judge Jackson became federal judge, and that she had no further involvement in the matter. Eventually, the uncle would be one of 1,700 people whose sentences for non-violent drug crimes were commuted by then President Barack Obama more than the past 12 presidents combined. By the time the uncle's released, he was 78 and in poor health. He died 4 months later, according to the Post. Wow. Fascinating. So that's a bit of her record as a public defender. Then it goes in this NPR article. I'm getting to the other point, final point. Going to be wrapping up very soon. The Trump era record. In 2012, Jackson was nominated for a seat on the federal trial court. Her confirmation went smoothly with numerous lawyers on the right as well as the left supporting the nomination. She was confirmed by the trial court by voice vote in 2013. As a trial judge, Jackson earned a reputation for hard work, a raucous laugh, and more than 500 opinions, some of them noteworthy not just for the outcome but their length. Perhaps the most prominent was an opinion ordering President Trump's former White House counsel, Don McCann, to appear before the White House judiciary. I'll get it out. Judiciary. There you go. Judiciary. I'll get it out. Judiciary. Keep on pronouncing it. I'll get it right. Judiciary. There you go. Committee to testify in its investigation into allegations of Russian interference in the 2016 election. In it, she wrote, "Presidents are not kings. This means that they do not have subjects bound by loyalty or blood, whose destiny they are entitled to control." That's very impressive. She, quote, "Presidents are not kings. This means that they do not have subjects bound by loyalty or blood, whose destiny they are entitled to control." So she got a lot of pushback for that, but again, she persevered. In 2018, Jackson, in another decision against Trump, ruled in favor of federal employee unions that were contesting several executive orders limiting the collective bargaining rights of federal workers. In another Trump-era case, Jackson sided with the administration, concluding that the Department of Homeland Security could waive more than 24 environmental laws in order to construct a segment of the wall along the U.S. border with Mexico. So again, she was sided with the Trump administration and the Department of Homeland Security and getting rid of those 24 environmental laws so that the wall could be constructed. So again, she works both sides of the aisle. And of course, we know in DC and also in our federal lands, it does come down to, unfortunately, politics. But you can see that she really provides evidence for supporting one decision, another decision after another. So again, I think, and then the article finishes up. I'm cutting and pasting here. On the appeals court, she most recently was a part of a unanimous panel that upheld a congressional subpoena for White House records related to the January 6th riots. When Trump appealed to the Supreme Court, the justices left it to the lower court ruling district. So again, there you go. That's a quick synopsis review of President Biden's Supreme Court nominee, Ketanji Brown Jackson. I wanted to find out more about her. Simple as that. Without all the filters, with all the political slant, I did my own deeper dive. And I connected with her. And just think about the history making of having an African American woman on the Supreme Court justice. at the highest level. Everyone else is kind of, not everyone, but other segments of our country are represented in the Supreme Court justice. And now I'm going to break it down. It's about daggone time. Wow, what our country has gone through. It's about daggone time to have an African American woman on, in, and forever. It's a forever deal. It's a forever occupation as a Supreme Court justice. So it's going to be interesting to see the questioning, the evaluation when she goes up and gets drilled by both sides. One side's going to give her, an easier time than the other. But that's what we have to do. This is, we're in a democracy, thank goodness. So the record shows, and let me just say, the record speaks for itself. Not just because who you are by your race and ethnicity. Let the record speak and do a deeper dive on individuals' credentials and how they represent themselves and what their commitment is to the United States. So I'm sure I'm going to learn more in the evaluation of Ketanji Brown Jackson. But I am, Dr. B says, I am very much satisfied. It's about damn time, y'all. It's about damn time. So, again, if you agree, send me an email, ejb678@gmail.com. If you disagree, send me an email at ejb678@gmail.com. Please like, please subscribe, and please state your opinion one way or another. Because this is what our country is all about. And this is constructive dialogue about critical issues in race and ethnic relations in our world, and particularly on college campuses across the country. Let your voice be heard, but get involved. That's what I like about Ketanji Brown Jackson. She got involved from day one. And she learned from what? Her parents. A lawyer and school teacher. Always observing. And when it's her time, she's stepping up and taking care of business professionally. So a big props. Do your investigation. But that's my quick overview of Ketanji Brown Jackson, our next Supreme Court Justice nominee. There you go. I want to thank Podbean. I want to thank Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Google Podcasts, I want to thank iHeartRadio, Audible, and of course I want to thank Spotify. Thank you so much for premiering our Race and Ethnic Relations on Campus podcast show. This is Dr. B. Yeah, I had to turn out Black History Month with the I think a great show. I had a fun time. I hope you had a fun time. Thank you for listening. Take care. See ya.